I just realized something too. So like before we get started, you have to put like a title and a description for StreamYard, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was going to do at first. I just typed in Hollie Kitchens Real Estate Badass. So that's the title we're going to be going with. I have a little more description, but that was the first thing I mean with Hollie. That's our Hollie. In my mind, so I just put in Real Estate Badass. So there we go.
Funny. Well, that's awesome. But yeah, okay. Well, I'm super excited to chat about today's topic and really kind of help people when it comes to content create, not only the creation, but then also the distribution.
Yeah. Yeah. So you came up with the topic this week. Thankfully, I was sitting there. I'm like, what are we going to talk about? Hallie's like, boom, let's do this. So why don't you talk about the topic we're going to be covering?
Yeah. So I wanted to share. I mean, we wanted to share. It's not just me here, but we wanted to share with you guys how to create a week's worth of content with just an hour of planning. So I'm super excited for all those who are, maybe you've kind of felt like you're in a slump and you haven't posted in a while, or you're just kind of tired of being reactive instead of responsive on social media. So we're really going to talk about some strategies, some methods, some ways, some tips to create your content within 1 hour of planning.
Yeah, I love it too, because the thing that always comes up that I hear from agents too, man, I just don't have enough time. I got busy this week. Right? Yeah. So how can we take that out of it and make it like, all right, if we can do this in an hour and be good for the rest of the week, we want to get back to getting in front of people. I get that. But this is so important to stay in front of people here too. So Hollie, let me ask you this. What would be your first step if you were planning to be like, all right, I need to get my content for the week in 1 hour? What would be the first step you would do?
Well, the first step is planning that time in your calendar to make it happen. So I know I've talked about this before. We've talked about, what's up, Stephanie?
What up, Steph?
For those listening to the audio portion of this, we just had Stephanie Marie say what's up to everybody on the comments. So anyways, I feel like that's a podcaster, me having to moderate in case if those aren't watching it, but they're listening.
I'm picking up tips from you every time we do this stuff, Hollie. I have so many podcasts that I'm thinking about now that I'm talking to people in the comments. I got to bring out Podcast Nick now when I do this. Thank you, Hollie.
100%. But yeah, but when it comes to what's the first step, it's really making time in the calendar to plan for your content. So for me personally, it's Sunday. And I know we've talked about this before, but it's such a game changer. I definitely want to revisit it again. So for those who maybe not have heard it, or maybe I'm going to say it in a different way that it resonates with you this time. But when it comes to Sunday planning, the last portion of my Sunday planning is going to be content creation for the week. So me personally, I book out that time on Sunday to do. And then from there, I just get doing it. I don't want to spill out the entire process because I know we'll want to chit chat. But the very first step is making the time to plan it out.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. We got Josue Soto reaching out. What's up, Josue?
What's up?
Yeah, I appreciate him reaching out too. So yeah, I mean, figuring out the time to do it too. And for me, it's a lot of times when I figure out where I want to go, then I start ideas start to flow, right? Yeah. When I figure out my week, I plan my week. That's why for a lot of times for me, content, there was a time when I would force content. When I'd be like, all right, I need to shoot this video. So where do I need to go? What do I need to do? Now I look at what am I doing for the week and how can I implement something like, oh, this is pretty cool that I'm doing this week. I can shoot a video about this, right? And then for me, it becomes a lot more genuine. It becomes a lot more authentic because I'm fitting it into my week and I'm not saying, oh, I got to go shoot here. I got to shoot a video about this because I think my audience would like that. Man, what am I doing this week? What's a listing appointment at a cool house that I'm going to? I'll shoot a video while I'm there. So it's more so trying to fit it into my week and not necessarily make it all about I just need to shoot videos. What am I doing this week that's pretty cool? Let's go shoot a video there.
100%. So I think it's, when you think about content, there's going to be two ways that you guys can plan it out. One is going to be already curating it prior to the posting. So you can go ahead and type out the content. So for instance, like a Tuesday tip, but I always drop a Tuesday tip. So when I do that, that's already pre-planned. I don't have to think about it on Tuesday. I don't wake up and say, oh, crap, I have to think about a tip real quick. I've actually already planned it out on Sunday, what I'm going to say. So think about those that you already have that you can plan out, like Tuesday tips, or maybe it's a throwback Thursday, something that's already happened. Obviously, to go live, you can't pre-record a live. That's just not how it rolls. However, when you're planning out your week of content, you can make a note in your content calendar. Make sure I wear, something that pops. Maybe make sure I wear something red. Maybe make sure I do my makeup before 9 a.m. so I can do this. Whatever the case may be. I know that sounds super silly, but it's all about planning. So taking your content calendar, for me personally, I use Trello. So Trello is a free tool to use. And I've created this Trello board where it's like, the very first, and I also have someone on our team that helps me with it, with the posting of it. But you guys, even if you don't have somebody that helps you post it, you guys can totally do this because it helps you keep organized. I've done this before, even before Iva has been helping me. But so like the very first board I have, like, okay, so it's like kind of a brain dump of, okay, who do I want to attract?
Right.
So for instance, real estate agents, you guys might want to attract sellers and buyers. Maybe you want to grow your team, and obviously you want to attract other real estate agents to recruit them, or whatever the case may be. Maybe it's builders, whatever the case may be. So on that first board, that Trello board, I have like who I want, my avatars listed out. Right. And this helps me because every week when I visit that Trello board, that first board or card that I see is going to be who I want to target. We already know who we want to target, but once we see that, and as we're planning it out, it really kind of brings us back to being super intentional. So,
and I want to, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
You're good. Keep going.
What you were saying there is so key, because it's not creating a new avatar each week and trying to hit a different audience. Because what you'll do is you'll create a crowd, not an audience, right? You want people who bought their ticket, who are coming there, that are staying for the entire show, right? So like what happens is, a lot of times it's create a new avatar, shoot for this audience and this audience. And then you get audience confusion. Confused people don't make purchases. Confused people don't reach out. Confused people don't make decisions. When you stick with that avatar, and even more important, you see it each week, you become intentional, like you just said. So that's Absolutely. A great point.
So I guess this first part we're going to be talking about like setting up the environment so it's impossible for you not to plan. So the environment is going to be that Trello board. Maybe it's a spreadsheet. Maybe it's like notes in your phone, whatever works best for you. But for me, I like Trello because I can see it visually. So I can say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that very first Trello board though, or that row, whatever you want to call it, I don't know even what it's called in Trello, but it's going to be talking about my avatar. Next, another board is going to contain hashtags. So we all know the game of Instagram is always changing. One day they're like, hey, include all 15 hashtags. One day they're saying, hey, only do like 4.
Right.
From my understanding, and I am not a hashtag guru, but from my understanding is Instagram does not like you using the same hashtags over and over and over again, because then you'll be shadow banned. And for those who don't know what shadow banned means, is like once you put, say my hashtag is hashtag Hollie. And, I could use that over and over, but I wouldn't want to use the exact same set of hashtags over and over and over again, like all 15, 5, 2, whatever we're using. Usually happens, I think, when it's the larger ones. But when you're shadow banned, that means you are not discoverable by hashtags. And the way that you can discover if you feel like you might be shadow banned, like you feel like there's been some loss of engagement, whereas you had before, go into a picture of yours, maybe an older one, maybe scroll about like 6 back or so, and type in on the comment section hashtag like ha 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 ha, or something that would be random that no one would use as a hashtag. And if they do, it's very like low, like maybe less than 100 people. Yeah. Comment that and then search yourself in that with that hashtag. And if your post isn't showing up, then there's more of a good chance that you're shadow banned. I'm not going to go into all that stuff, but I feel like I use that term, so I feel like I need to describe it a little bit more of what it meant, to give some substance to it. But
that's why sometimes I'm not around like, shadow bans, right? Like, I'm glad you went into detail about that.
100%. But some common hashtags used, maybe some hashtags that, okay, I want to attract builders. So maybe I put hashtag OKC builder and I find all the builders and I go in and engage with them. Yeah. So that's also part of the planning too, right? But I know that's engagement. We're talking about content creation,
well, that's very important too, because again, it's like how we're treating social media like a CRM, and it's a tool to make money, not sit there and waste time with it. Right.
100%.
That's where I don't even say so. When I'm referring to myself on there, I say the social CRM now. I'm taking social media out of my vocabulary because then it makes me be more intentional on there. So I'm glad you shared that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that perspective. But that first board just talks about my avatar, some hashtags, and also too, I don't have this personally on mine because I've done it so well. But one thing too, that as you guys are beginning out, think about what your categories are going to be. And the categories meaning what is the content you're going to consistently put out. So for real estate agents, it could be market updates, it could be listings, it could be sold, it could be behind the scenes. So maybe it's you,
Right.
showing a house, maybe it's you with clients, whatever the case may be, closing. So identify your categories that you're going to be posting too. That kind of helps too when it comes to your content creation and thinking about what you're going to be posting about.
Yeah.
Okay, what does your audience like? Go back in your do a little quick audit and see what people are engaging with the most, and bam, there's a category for you. So going through there, so that's going to be like setting it up for success, kind of laying the foundation or the template, if you will, for your Trello board or insert whatever tool you're using.
Yeah.
The next,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like you said, like these are your categories. Every time we get started out with people, we call it their pillars of the brand.
Yep.
Right. Here's your brand at the top. And it's basically if you have one category, one pillar, it's going to fall. Right.
Yep.
How do we create a sturdy brand that we can continue to implement is what are the pillars of the brand? What are 20 ideas for each one you can come up with?
Yep.
And then that's how we can create content for almost over a month is I create my pillars, like the different categories, and then I put 45 seconds on the clock. And then I just write down as many stories and different things that I can think of in those 45 seconds. And I do that with like 3 or 4 pillars. And I'm like, all right, here are my ideas for the next couple of weeks.
That's a fantastic idea too. And then you could do that almost like a monthly content jam session of, okay, so what's some new, categories. So when you start doing this weekly, you're not really having to put so much time into being tactical and creative because it's very hard. I don't know if you're like me or I feel like everybody has to have this problem. It's hard to switch from being tactical to being creative to going back to being tactical.
Really? Yeah.
There's been times I'm creating designs and then I'm having to edit, like creating a design and then editing a website and then going back to design creation. My brain is fried because it's like, hold on, what do you pick one or the other?
Right.
So I love that idea. So I think that's something huge that everyone can implement immediately. I know I will start implementing it. It'd be a content jam session. So talking about your pillars of your brand, talking about your brand categories. And that's also how we have brand consistency, right? So
yes. Yeah.
create that for sure. So we'll add that as another part of the Trello first column board. And then from there, you build out your Trello board with Monday, row for Monday, a row for Tuesday, Wednesday, so on and so forth. You list out all the days of the week.
Right.
One thing that, you might find helpful too is if you go and find like your national holidays. So, the other day I shared a post on National Awkward Moments Day, and I talked about something that was super awkward that I did. And that's just part of my brand too, because I want to be a real authentic, and authentically me is being very awkward a lot of times. So, of course I wanted to share a story on Awkward Moments Day. So there's things too you guys can take a look at for so maybe that's part of your hour planning is, okay, hopping to like nationalholiday.com or whatever their website is, finding what's going to be the national holidays, kind of, picking out some of those. And that's kind of a filler. If you can't think of something, go back to a national holiday and put something in. But adding those in, and then like Nick, what you just said earlier, looking at your calendar and saying, okay, well, I'm going to be, for instance, the week of May 21st, 22nd, I'm going to be speaking at Janet Usselton's and the HSRA event. Yeah, those who are in the Dallas area, love to see you guys there, but I'll be speaking there, right? So obviously I can't post or I can't go live if I'm not there, right? However, I will make note on my calendar. So like on Friday, speaking at event, go live or take an action shot picture. So I know mentally I'm prepared to show up to take that picture and to do that. Or else, there's a lot of times too, we've left and we're like, oh crap, we didn't take a picture of that. Or I didn't do this. So it kind of helps you too. So definitely what you said earlier is key. Looking at your calendar, where are you going to be at, then utilizing that. Like, why not speak and add value and then also capture that for social media? It just makes sense. So reviewing your calendar, seeing what you need to do. And also too, like I said, like what is going to be things that you can go ahead and curate now. If it's a Throwback Thursday, maybe, for me personally, like a podcast episode, I will schedule it in Libsyn to distribute like on Wednesdays, say for instance on Wednesdays. So maybe on Wednesday I'll show that, or maybe on Thursday, depending on whatever your content strategy is, posting that cover art and then saying, hey, new episode, go listen to it here. So really that's it's key is about organization. And I am not an organized person. I feel like a 12-year-old rebel when it comes to that. However, I know the importance of that process and system. So you have to have a process and system put into play to curate your content, to be intentional, to be brand consistent, and show up. So really taking that time on that hour, going through there on each day, and then typing in. So what I love about Trello, like I said, you can upload your image or attachment. You can also go ahead and type in all of your caption, copy, paste it, and post it. Bam. Or you can use a scheduler. I know Canva, and I say this, I feel like every time we talk about scheduling content, Canva has one that I want to check out, but I haven't checked out yet because right now I'm testing some stuff when it comes to strategies and stuff like that too. So I'm seeing about uploading it on organic platform, but then staying within the platform after you post it within 15 minutes to gain traction and all that other stuff. But that's another story. But yeah, that's really how I truly set out a week worth of content on my Sunday, is to going through there, being super intentional, building those posts around the categories or brand pillars to be consistent and show up consistent.
Yeah, no, that's a great point there. One thing I want to touch on that you said was the brand consistency, right? That is really so crucial too, because what will happen if you're not consistent, you don't have those pillars of the brand, you don't have those categories, is you're going to start losing people that you just gained from one video. And then the next video, it's going to be the same thing. You're going to be losing and gaining an audience. You never really have that consistency to continue to get your following. And, my big thing too is, so I do a jam session, right? Every now and then. I don't have to do it once a month, because what happens is I do my jam session, right? And for those of you who are just tuning in now, the jam session is you put 45 seconds on the clock. You come up with my brand pillars never change. I came up with my brand pillars once, and we continue to refill them, right?
Yep.
So let's say real estate branding is one of my brand pillars, right? Mm-hmm. So I come up with as many stories about it, funny times I had to stay up, problems. The big one is problems that I had with it. And then I just come up with as many as I can. And I always do it with the partner, because when my partner tells a story, I'm like, oh, that's something else. That just sparked another idea for me too, right? So, and then from there, here's the great part about this. You can put it in a Google Docs. I got in the habit of just texting myself. Every time something else comes up that I know is within one of my pillars, I'm listening to a podcast and one line sticks out to me. I'm like, oh, that's a good one-liner for a video, right? Yeah. I'm on this show and I'm like, oh, Hollie just dropped some nuggets. Yep. That's a good one-liner for a video.
Yep.
So that way I'm consistently adding more to this, and I call it my vault now, right? I got my pillars and I got the vault. So now it's almost rare that I'm in an environment, I'm like, oh, I should shoot a video. And then I just come up with an idea on the spot, and then I'm ready to go. That's the stars aligning. What happens is I know I'm in a good spot to shoot a video. I'm like, oh, yeah, this place is pretty cool. I just go to my vault and I look for an idea. Whichever one sticks out to me, I'm like, that's the idea, and that's the video that I'll shoot sometimes, right? 100%. So a lot of times, too, it's about picking the place, and then when you have the vault, it just makes it 10 times easier.
I love that. And, too, that could be your, Wednesday could be your vault day or something like that. You know what I mean? But understanding and knowing exactly what to post is key too, because if you're almost just putting stuff out just to post out. And at the end of the day, we all want to post with purpose. We want to be super intentional and really, really be consistent and show up on the platform as who we say we are in our bio, right? And that's another thing too, is when you guys are scheduling out all of these, making sure too, is this aligning with who I am portraying online? Right. If it's not, then we obviously don't need to be posting that.
Yeah, my word for this week was being intentional, right? Being very intentional with what I'm doing. And it also comes down to understanding how important this is, understanding that the social media feed, it's like a modern drip campaign, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, we all know that in real estate with the CRMs. Like I said, this is my social CRM. The posts are my drip campaign. If I'm not dripping on people, somebody else is, right? 100%. So that's super important when we get down into this. And I know that Jackie was just saying that too. She's like, I'm a hot mess. I'm going all over the place. But that's sometimes a good thing. It's a great video. She's talking about that right there too.
Yeah, 100%. And I always think about we all had those awkward phases we went through in school.
Yeah.
Like there was literally like this is a true story. There's a time where I was wearing bandanas and listening to Bone Thugs and Harmony and Tupac. I still listen to both of those people today.
We should
However,
be best friends if you're doing that, just so you know. But that's
so
fine.
I mean, I went through that where I was like wearing that. Then I went to this like this emo goth phase, but like now I'm like this hybrid Hollie that's like I love it all. And this is who I am.
Wow. Yeah.
I think too, like we just, especially if you're just starting out with your brand and you're just trying to gauge what your audience loves.
Right.
I mean, that's okay. Just but just make sure you're aware of, okay, are they reacting to this? And, at the end of the day, like, don't pay too much attention to, like, oh, I'm not getting a lot of comments on this, or I'm not getting a lot of that, because you never know who's watching. Like I saw somebody at a wedding a couple weeks ago that I hadn't seen in like years, 5 or 6 years. First thing he said to me was, "Hey, love what you're doing with your podcast."
Yep.
I had no clue that this guy was even listening to it. You just never know, like, what will happen and being consistent. But I think, we always go through that awkward phase and trying to figure out, like, hey, how we're going to show up online, what we're going to post, what's really good. But one thing, too, that actually really condenses time that helps with planning an hour worth of content for 1 week is Canva templates. I will say this, like I will hop in like I have like a template for my Tuesday tips. I have a template for just quotes I like to share.
Right.
I use those. So like literally it takes me 2 seconds to copy and paste them into that graphic instead of thinking, okay, now I've got to build this graphic and I've got to do this. But the bonus too is now I'm showing up brand consistent. So somebody's going to see that, and without having to see who posted it, they're going to say, oh, that must be Hollie posting that.
Yeah. No, you're definitely right there too. And on top of that as well, people share it, they're going to see your branding on it too, right?
Yep.
So that's really important. And look, at the end, so sometimes I'll be like, man, I work like it's crazy. I guess it might be a little different for girls as guys too, but I would still even go through it sometimes when I'm like, man, I wore the same shirt like last week or something, and I was in the same place. Like, I got to switch things up. Look, there is so much crap posted on social media. There's so many videos, so many posts. I could wear the same thing for a week and not one person would really notice.
100%.
Like, literally not one person would notice.
It's funny you say that, because this morning when I was getting dressed, I was literally thinking, like, what have I not worn on one of our lives?
Yeah.
Always think when you guys are doing lives and you're doing, content, if you're in the business, unless if you're just like a loud character, I always think about evergreen wardrobe. I know we're kind of getting off topic, but I want to talk about this because like for me, my go-to is like solid black color, whatever the case may be. And so I know if I'm going to be talking, if I'm going to be, for instance, when I shoot my story stickers course or when I shoot a course, podcasting course, whatever, I always make sure that I'm wearing evergreen colors and aren't trendy. I love animal print.
Evergreen colors to maybe somebody who's not as trendy.
So when I say evergreen, I guess something like if you're going to watch it in a year from now, the trends might phase out. So like, for instance, animal print, it was in like, when was Jersey Shore like hot? Like that was like 2011, 2010. So like animal prints were hot then they went away and now they're hot again. Right? I know they're probably not going to be hot maybe in another 3 years, but I want to create content. Like I created a podcast course on how to launch a podcast, and I made sure to wear red, and I still am using that course today. Of course, I'm going there and editing out, changing, because like, for instance, Google Play doesn't exist anymore. So going back and just editing that part out. However, if I was wearing like animal print and my hair was like, in a certain style and whatever, that's like, timeless. But you got to think about timeless when you create your content, because you know this, with content cards and crim content, all the stuff that you guys are doing, it's important to have evergreen material, and so that you can use this and repost it. Because if I'm wearing like, like tans or blacks or, pastels or whatever the case may be, I can repost that and, later on, or use it somewhere else. And it's not gonna be like, oh, why is she using that old stuff? So that's just something I always think about too. I know that sounds a little crazy, but.
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, a little bit, but not really. No, it's something that you got me thinking about as well. But what I will say this is, I really understood that these videos we're shooting it's an asset to our business. When I started looking at what John and Jay created, and I was able to go back 7 years and pull clips from these videos that are still just valuable today as they were at that time. Yes, there's some videos. If you do a market update, you can't use that 7 years from now, right? But a lot of these videos that like I'm posting now, I am consciously aware that we'll be able to repurpose that 5 years from now, 10 years
100%.
from now, right? And it's just keeping that in mind that this is not a one and done, right? It's not like, look, you might not have the system built out today, but maybe 5 years from now, 3 years from now, you're like, all right, how do we take everything we've accumulated over this time, repurpose it? Like Jay-Z, like if he didn't want to shoot a video, he could have videos for the rest, like next 5, 10 years.
100%. Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah.
You're knocking it out of the park right now with those guys and helping them create that content, because you're just going back. And that's another thing too, is like, that's another way you can complain your content too, is if you go back and look at, or, have somebody like Nick go through and grab those old videos, and then bam, that's a post right there.
Yeah.
You don't have to go and, shoot anything. You're just going back and repurposing. And like Nick said, there's so much congestion out there online that we could literally take this video and say the exact same words next week, and we're going to reach new listeners, or maybe we're going to listen already listeners, and they think they're going to pick up something brand new on it. People are always, they're always looking for something else to grab their attention. So I was just saying, I think that's like, you nailed it when you're talking about like, not worrying about what you're going to wear or do this and together, because at the end of the day, you can also like, now we can take this and we can take the audio from this, upload it to Audible as a podcast, and no one's going to see anything that we're wearing, right? They're just going to hear our voice and our tonality.
Yeah.
Or, we could take it and transcribe it and put it into a blog. Again, no one's going to, so like that's 3 pieces of content right there just from one little video. And there's so much more you can do with it.
And on top of that too, I forgot what I was going to say. No, I hate when that happens, But, for me, like one of the big things is just these interviews too. You want to know the easiest video to do an interview. Yeah. The easiest video to do is an interview with somebody, especially if you bring on someone great like Hollie. You want to like talk about like the easiest things to do. We come on here, hey, what do you want to talk about today? All right, great, let's go.
We decided this 7 minutes before going live. And
just so you guys know, these concepts were not built in 7 minutes. These concepts were built over years of I know myself and how trial and error and come up with these systems. But when you bring on an expert in something, you can just say like, hey, what are we going to talk about today? This great, let's cover this.
And that's the key. You talk about from experience and not hypotheticals. You know what I mean? Yeah. And what's funny is I would maybe think about that and text you, hey, let's talk about this unless you have a different idea, is because I literally was thinking today, I'm like, I haven't been active as much as I should be today, but I don't have to worry about it because it's already been planned, it's already been posted, and it's already out there. So I was like, I've been so, consumed with projects and working on things that I was like, oh, it's okay. I showed up today in an intentional way because I planned it last Sunday. Yeah. So that's what I was just kind of reflecting on that. And I was like, oh, that'd be a good topic to kind of talk about, because I know me, it's like helped me get my sanity back for sure.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what. So just speaking of this is actually a pretty funny story. So when we were sending out, what was that one app? There was an app where you could send out like mass text messages from your own phone number. Like you would have to do like, what was it, like group? Jay and John were talking about it during the one. I want to see if I still have it on my phone. Now, I can't remember it off the top of my head. But essentially, you can send out you can put a bunch of people in a group, right? You have to send it individually, but you're allowed to mass text from your phone number, right? So we were inviting people to an event, and I'm like, let's see how far we can push this. I sent out 3,000 in a day. So there's a limit to how many iMessages you can send out at once, apparently. We literally broke iMessage. For our phone, we had to call Apple, what the hell were you doing? They're like, how did this happen? Yeah, that was me. So we had to explain it. They're like, yeah, here's the limit. You can't go past it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't think it could happen either, but I'm like, why is nothing sent out? Yeah, you broke iMessage on your phone. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. But anyways, so with that being said, that's how we come up with these systems. So, that's how I know I come up with these systems.
Yep.
Crazy stories like that where I break something that's the limit we could go to. And that's how we'll be able to share what was able to work, right? I'm always one to push limits and break things, figure out how far we can go, and then roll them out to be like, hey, this is as far as we can go.
Now, here's what not to do.
right, yeah. So a lot of times it's that comes down to it too. What shouldn't we be doing?
100%. And, too, when it comes to interviews and, for those who, I know we're kind of straying away from topic, but you had talked about interviews is just an easy way to generate lives, generate content. And I think whenever it comes to interviewing people, people typically love to talk about themselves, especially if they have something big going on.
Yeah.
So if it's a new brand, if it's a new book, if it's a new whatever, they love to talk about it. So like I always think, if I'm always stuck or if I'm interviewing somebody, I'm like, oh, I don't have that much of a rapport with them. I always talk about, okay, what did you like looking at a milestone? Let's talk about this milestone you've already accomplished. Let's talk about what you're currently doing. And then let's talk about what you're about to do or what's in the plan for the future. Those 3 talking points will literally like help have you talking endlessly about somebody or something for hours, potentially. Well, obviously, we know we don't want to do hours of interviews, but if you just talk about those 3 things, I think that really helps you kind of get unstuck too.
And here's the thing with the interviews too, I bring on an expert, and guess what? I look like an expert now, right?
100%.
And then you also build your audience. You get to make more relationships with people. I think interviews, it's one of the more underrated types of like content. Everyone's trying to come with that perfect video with the message. Man, you shot a perfect video message and got all those likes and views. Come on my show, right? Yeah. So like for me, we built our business based on basically the interview format and being able to create more partnerships and meet more people through this. Yep. So for me, like the interviews, you want to take over a community, interview everyone in the community, interview the leaders. I always look at who's that big domino I can knock down that can allow me to get the bigger audience, right?
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah, so strategic relationships. And a lot of times in real estate, a lot of times when I ask, like, okay, who can we shoot these videos with? It's like, I don't know. It's like, all right, who are some community leaders you know? Oh, so-and-so. Here's a business owner. It's like, that's what we do. It's not more complicated. Obviously, real estate agents are great at drinking and meeting people, right? Those are 2 things most real estate agents have locked down, right? Let's utilize that. We've met a lot of people. Bring them on the show. Have them talk, like you said, have them talk about them. Talk about your business. Talk about the school district you're running. Talk about yada, yada. Just talk about the community, and people will love that.
And that's another piece of content that you could, put into your calendar for the week is an interview. Like every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern, I know I'm going to be live with Nick. Like, so if I don't even post anything, I can always take that and reshare it since I'm not streaming live. But it's interesting to see the power of influence on other people and the power of gaining trust. So like if you're just starting out and, I was in a Clubhouse room again, another Clubhouse story, but I was in Clubhouse and a question was asked, like, how do I just start, showing up as this expert or this thing, right? So like we all started somewhere, right? But, for instance, if you want to write a book and you want to show up as an author, but you haven't written your book just yet, that's fine. Start documenting the process. Say, hey, screenshots of this is where I'm writing chapter 1 of my book this morning.
Right.
Also interview people who have wrote books.
Right.
Now, when they start searching your name or people start seeing you repeatedly talk about books, either it's creating a book, it's authoring a book, or talking with other people about their experience with books and what it's done for their brand.
Right.
We're going to start coordinating you with being an author or coordinate with you with book writing. It's as simple as that. So you just got to understand, like, what am I going to help people with? So like for Nick, it's going to be content, right?
Right.
What now, like Nick, you haven't been doing content since the day you were born, obviously. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're a newborn baby, you can't get on a computer. However, there's a day and time that you realize, hey, I really enjoyed this and I really add value. I'm going to start showing up as the go-to content person.
Right.
And then you just started consistently being consistent in that messaging. For me, it was branding. So it's like, okay, now I'm going to talk about branding. I'm going to be consistent and I'm going to share my story. It's how I got started in branding. And I think once you understand that, because so many people are like, well, I don't know where to start, or I don't know how to show up as. You want to show up as, the go-to listing agent. You want to show up as, a real estate coach, or you want to show up as a team leader, or whatever the case may be. Right. Cool. Now talk about the bullet points of what content do you need to create to show up as that authentically, right? The keyword authentically. Obviously, you guys don't want to be, I'm not going to sit there from day one and say, you know what? I built this multi-million-dollar brand. Like people see right through that, right? Like, like you have to be real with yourself. However, it's enjoying the process. And it's also, how can I, interview or leverage my network to really amplify my expertise?
You're 100% right. It's amplifying your expertise, and I also look at it as a way, you know, I'm not going to sit here and sell it. So I told you I sold the most homes in the year, but I know a guy who can claim that he sold hundreds of homes in a year and can come on and talk about that. And I know that's going to add value to my audience, right?
Yep.
So sometimes, yeah, of course, you know, like we have our content show, right? But I have another pillar of the brand, and that's real estate too.
Yeah.
Right. So that's part of my brand. And of course, in my niche, I can be an expert in this niche. But then I also know that my audience wants some other things too.
100%.
So I can a guy who, like, again, I can sit here and talk hypothetical, but that's not helping you. It's not helping me. So I'm going to bring out a guy who's the best at that. Then you want to talk about team building? Man, a guy who had a 900 agent brokerage. Let's bring him on, right? So it's a lot of times too, it's you want to become a community expert, interview everyone in the community, right? We're all the experts in there. We don't have to, of course, I recommend, you know, going places, shooting videos, but interviewing people, they already have an audience that you're looking to get, right? They already have no like and trust with them because they're like business owners, students, you know, you want to interview obviously highly reputable people.
Yeah.
Right? So when you do that, it's just going to be, you're going to be an authority by affiliation, and you'll continue to grow to a point where people will be reaching out to you to get onto your show because they see everybody else, the who's who is on there, right?
100%. And I think you made a great distinction too that I want to touch up on because you're talking about like, hey, I'm not only talking about content.
Right.
I'm talking for you. Sorry, by the way. So like Nick's not only talking about content, right? But he specifically, and I think this is a great thing too, is we all have to understand our avatar. And I know we've talked about this, but it's super important because Nick's avatar, when it comes to content creation and helping those, is a real estate agent. So real estate agents don't want to just sit there and listen to content all the time. They also want to listen to other tips and tricks and stuff like that too. So it's understanding your avatar. I made this mistake with DIY Legend is I was trying to be everything for everyone.
Yeah.
And I had a handful of people that are ride or die. They're still ride or die today that still take all my tips and trip and implement them into their business. But I started realizing, wait a minute, my customer or my client is usually a real estate agent. Why am I not speaking directly to them? And that's when I made the shift to Agent Authority Academy because DIY Legend, I was trying to be all in for everyone. And we all know if you're for everyone, you're for no one. And when you really dial that in and say, wait a minute, I'm seeing a lot of people, say for instance, if you're a real estate agent, I'm servicing a lot of people in the Frisco, McKinney, Prosper area, which is like the North Dallas area. Perfect. So I'm going to stop talking about Arlington, Texas, or I'm going to, you know what I mean? So it's understanding too. And I think once you get crystal clear on what your audience wants to hear, who they are, it's so much easier to plan out your content as well. So thinking about who's your client, who's your customer, whatever verbiage you want to use, and then understanding when you're planning out this hourly content, just a quick recap is to plan out a week's worth of content, you have to have the system in place to do so. And that system, it can be a Trello board, it could be Google Docs, whatever the case may be. Go ahead and pre-plan all your content out, but understand that it needs to be geared toward your avatar, your audience, whoever you're serving. Now, if you're trying to plan this out for just personal reasons, that's cool too, whatever. But we're obviously talking about for businesses and
my avatar. So we're going to be doing businesses.
100%. So when you also think about too, utilizing those tools out there like Insights. And I know we talked about this our last episode, but you know, for those who might have missed it, go into your Facebook, click on the tab that says Insights. Go on those insights and look at the statistics. When is your audience showing up online? That's whenever your posts need to be scheduled. So you can use, like I said, I know Canva. What are some tools that you've heard of, Nick, that are good for scheduling? Because me personally, I'm just trying to do organic right now.
So are you talking about like for scheduling?
Yeah. Like scheduling your post.
Yeah, Facebook Creator Studio.
Yep.
So it's free. It's on the back end of everybody's Facebook. You can do your Facebook and your Instagram.
Yep.
So for us, we go through the Creator Studio. It's really simple. It's pretty user friendly. That's my biggest thing. Anytime I look at a tool, how simple is it to use, right? So Facebook Creator Studio, it allows me to schedule posts. Now that's for your business page, and if you have a business Instagram, you can't schedule on your personal. Can you do that on Canva?
See, I don't know. I told you I need to look into it. So I keep talking about it, but one of these days I'm actually going to say, hey, you know what? I actually checked it out and this is my result. But I do love Facebook Creator Studio too, because you can do so much more when it comes to branding. Like you can even create your own frames. So like when you go live on your cell phone, I can go live and it could say Hollie Kitchen's branding strategist.
Get out of here.
So I know Stephanie put on a comments on this live that Creative Studio is so easy to use. It is. And actually, I've got next week, I'm on my schedule for next week is how to create those overlays when you go live. So like, StreamYard, we all know you can create those overlays. But now on Facebook, you can create those as well. So that's going to be my Tuesday tip next week, right? So bam, already. So like today, I created the template on how to, I created the template on how to do it for somebody, showing them how to do it. And then now I'm like, perfect. Now I'm going to take this. I'm going to add in a little bumper intro video. I'm going to add in a last screen that says, hey, follow me for more tips like this. And then bam, that's a post right there.
I love it. So I'm tuning in next week. I want to learn how to do that, utilize that too. So thank you for that, Holly.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to wrap this up and just cover again, 1 hour content. For me, it comes down to knowing your brand. That's why when we say create your avatar, create your pillars, you do that one time, guys. It's not a new avatar. You're not constantly switching your pillars. You create that once, and then it just comes down to, if you do that 45 seconds on the clock, write out as many stories under each pillar as you can. You'll have content for at least the next week. And then all you got to do is place it in the days and the times, right?
100%.
So for me, that sounds like a killer strategy.
Yep. I love it. Well, hopefully you guys found value in this. I know it's literally been something that's game changed for me, because I would find these, like, I'd wake up and get super excited one week and post every day, 3 times a day. And then I would go dead. Like, people might think I'm like dead because I don't post for like 2 weeks. So the key is finding what makes it, like, right now I'm posting once a day.
Right.
And that's fine. But if you're a brand new account, obviously your strategy might be 3 times a day. Right. But whatever it is, like, don't overwhelm yourself, but make sure you're showing up consistently and make sure people know that you're still in business. So like, on your company profile page, a lot of people know this, Facebook wants you to pay to play. So you're not going to be exposed to a lot of people, but like post once a week so people know that you're still in business. Like, don't wait a long time.
So I remembered what I was going to say before. So it clicked in my head. So the one time I went live 7 times in one day. I'm like, man, everybody must have saw it. I was talking to Al today, and I wasn't today. I was talking to Al that day, Al Stasic, and I'm like, hey, did you, like, I brought up the lives, like, no, I didn't see one. And it just blew my mind in that moment. I'm like, I went live 7 times from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's like that's like 1 an hour, right? And I was like, Nick Crum went live. I'm like, I'm sure people in my audience saw it, but Al was like, no, didn't see it today. And it just made me realize, too, that there's so much going on in social media and other people's lives. That one not great, quote-unquote, video, not everyone sees it. Like when you shoot videos, it's not saying that everybody's going to see everything you do. And it kind of got me in my own way of being like, hey, there's no such thing as too much content, right? There's no such thing as too much posting, in my opinion.
100%. That's a fantastic point, because I went live, like it wasn't when I could go live. It was like a month or 2 ago. And when we go off live and you just turn off record and you're like, man, that was just not good. I should go back and delete it because that was terrible. Yeah. I was really thinking that. So what I was going to do is do this live, repurpose it for my Monday Minute segment on my podcast. And instead I was like, dinner got made and stuff, whatever. And I'm just going to re-record my audio only for the podcast, because I just did not like the way it turned out. Yeah. That was one of the lives that got like one of the most loves for I've had for a long time. I'm like, this is so bizarre, because I feel like I was so out of element. However, people, I guess they enjoy whenever, that you're not being polished and you're not, articulating every word or, whatever, you just be you. And I was just being me. And I kind of like left. I was like, dang, I feel like I could have done better than that. And then people loved it. So just just reiteration of what you were saying is like, there's so much going on too, but like once you show up, people are going to enjoy it. So don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah. So I got one last word for us. Let's do a week without doubt. I want everybody here, don't think about what you're about. Well, what you're not about to post, but don't second guess it. If you have an idea to post it this week, post it, put it out there. You never know what your audience will respond to unless you post it for them too.
Love it. Those are some wise words to end this week's Hollie and Crim show on.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Hollie.
Yeah. Thank you.